What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/AllNBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Tim Legler, fresh back from the dentist and the road and everything else. Legs, how we doing?
I'm great, man. What's going on? I'm doing well. People in Boston, not so much.
People in Denver, not so much as well. You and I, man, we're on such a same wavelength. Our lives, we're traveling at the same time. And then we got the dentist appointment at the same time. I mean, we're kind of the same person, I feel.
Well, this time of year, we are the same person because I think for both of us, we have multiple layers to what we're doing. Yeah, it's like I'm squeezing in a dentist appointment, like coming from the airport before I even go see my family, who I haven't seen in a few days. And I got to leave first thing in the morning to go to the West Coast for a few days. And in the meantime, what am I going to do? My least favorite thing in the world, go to the dentist.
I know, man. It is the worst. I joked yesterday that it was the highlight of my day because I, of course, watched the Denver Nuggets lose by 50 points to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who looked incredible. We're going to get to that game in block 2, but we have to start with the more exciting game that happened last night. It happened again. I'm covering the Nuggets, so I had to watch this one today. I didn't know if my DVR, did I get the wrong game? Because I'm watching the Knicks come back in the fourth quarter, and I'm like, wait a second, this is game 1. They did it again, 91-90. And there is a deja vu factor when a team comes back in the exact same fashion that they did in the previous one. And you could see the people in the Garden. When the game got down to 6 points late, everybody in the building has their hands on their head like this. It was a train wreck in slow motion. You could feel it coming. But what stood out to you about this one? And did you have the same thought watching it?
I think the first thing that stood out was how you could feel the anxiety. And I was in DC last night, so I was doing the game and then doing post game with Van Pelt. So I'm just in a room watching the game, and I could feel the anxiety coming through the screen. And I know what they were feeling, particularly, certain arenas is a little bit more than others, having done it in the first game. And now here you go, as soon as the Knicks got it to 10 or 8, that's for me when I felt the transformation in the game to this incredible amount of anxiety and an offense that was almost paralyzed by the moment and what was happening to them and did not have an answer to how to score. Now, it was different than the first game in that game 1, I don't think they never considered they were going to lose. Not only that game, but any game against the Knicks. And they got the big lead and they continued to take really quick shots, shooting 3 after 3 after 3. Of course, we all talked about it for 48 hours. And that's not what this was. They only took a few of them in the fourth quarter. It was all over the court. But they had 3 wide open threes. They had some mid-range good shots from Jalen Brown and Jayson Tatum. They had a couple of drives and stuff at the rim. Derek White had a couple of layups near the rim that didn't go. Al Horford had opportunity around the paint. It was all over the court, but it wasn't the same theme. So it was same result, almost exactly the same script, but for a very different reason. Game 1 was more about the Celtics just being married to this is how we play. And, the rest of you can just live with it. And they end up costing themselves a game. And this was, to me, more about stress and anxiety, much more so than the first game. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree with it because what you're talking about was the last game, the Celtics settled into what they're most comfortable with, which is taking all these threes and kind of the shots. It looked lazy and it looked complacent in a way. And in this game, I thought it was the opposite, where they were like, okay, we can't do that again. We have to go to the rim. But it wasn't natural. It was almost the inverse, where the game's not coming to you. You're thinking, I have to do this thing, and it wasn't natural. But there were 2 stretches in this game in the second half that I thought really made this game what it was. 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. Boston's up by 20 points and they get a 2-on-1 fast break, Tatum and Brown. And there's a bounce pass and Brown just can't handle it. So you blow a 2-on-1 fast break that push it to 22. Then you get a putback dunk from Porzingis and then a lob to Porzingis, and they miss all of those. All of those scoring opportunities are A-plus scoring opportunities that could push it to 24 or 26. They come up empty, and the Knicks went on a run immediately after that. In the fourth quarter, and you're referencing these ones, 4 minutes to go in the fourth, Tatum had a wide open three in the corner, misses it. Jaylen Brown gets a pick and roll. Cat's in a deep drop. He's at the top of the key with nobody within 10 feet, wide open, and misses that one. And that would have, either one of those, I think, puts the game away. Instead, the Knicks won an 8-0 run after that, and all of a sudden it's a game. So to me, it was those two little windows. As a bunch of stuff went wrong, but those two little windows would have slammed the door shut, and they came up empty on all of those possessions.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like I've been saying, when you see these runs and teams losing a lead, and you saw this with the Warriors-Minnesota game, great example of it. Curry's out. They have the 20-point lead. Here comes Minnesota. They cut it all the way back, I think 10, maybe even got it under 10. I'm not sure. And all you're thinking is, man, just one basket. One basket stops the momentum. Everything feels different. And they couldn't get that one, man. And the Knicks just kept coming. And it's wild to watch the Knicks in that situation look so much more comfortable than a defending champion. And that was what also stood out to me. To your point about the inverse, going out of your way to not play that way, I do think, now look, they still shot 43s. All right, so they shoot 47 on an average night. So it's below their average. It's still more than most teams take every night. But to your point, I saw a concerted effort at the beginning of the game. Jaylen Brown in particular, he was taking guys off the dribble, very physical, very athletic, getting to the rim, short shots. Tatum, same, did not take a step back three, which he took probably 6 of those in the fourth quarter alone in game one. And that's his favorite shot. And he didn't take any of them. And so I think, Adam, that the narrative that was it was a national story. What happened in game one, not just that they blew the lead, but that they shot 63s, that they shot 37 threes after halftime. Everyone was talking about it. It became just, and look, I know maybe they're not listening to all that stuff, but you know what? You can't avoid it, man. It's all anyone was talking about. What's going to happen in game two? Are they going to double down? Are they going to change the way they play? Better balance in their offense? So I do agree with you. And I think the guy most affected by all of the noise was Jayson Tatum, because he only took 5 in the game and they were all wide open. And that tells you all you need to know right there, because Jayson Tatum takes 4 or 5 contested one-on-one step back threes a game, just like Anthony Edwards. It's one of their, Luka too. It's their favorite shot. Tatum wasn't looking for that shot at all. He was, if he got one, it's because he was open. They swung it to him. He had his feet set. The one he missed in the fourth quarter, right corner you talked about, he had way too much time to shoot that. Like, he rotated the ball, looked at it, read it, sized it up, posed for a picture, shot it. That's not what Tatum plays like. He'd take anybody off the dribble anytime he wants to shoot that step back three over any defender. He didn't even look for it. I think it was messing with his head. What happened in game one, all of those 3-point shots, he took a ton of them, especially lost the game. Well, man, what if I do that again? What are they going to say about me if I have another 3 for 15 game from there? So I'm not going to take him. I'm not even going to look for him. And as a result, he was completely bottled up mentally. I thought he was his best defender in the game. That's what it looked like to me. And then when you needed him in the fourth quarter to come through because he had no rhythm, he couldn't deliver.
Yeah. And you were talking about the anxiety that comes through the building. So a lot of this has to do with him, because to your point, some of the shots he got some of them were bad. And we'll talk about the last one here in a second, but some of them were wide open. And yet there was still an anxiety in the building. And that's the part of this that I think is a little bit interesting is, what is this team? Where are they at right now? And if you don't have faith in your best player, like collectively, the building doesn't have faith in their best player hitting a wide open transition 3-pointer from the corner, that kind of shows you just where that rhythm and the belief is off for them. So I'm with you. Do you want to get to the last play? We got to talk Knicks. I think the story is a lot about the Celtics and their shortcomings because they have built leads and they've looked horrible down the set. But I do want to give the Knicks a lot of credit. They have some interesting things going on. But let's just get to the last play from Tatum here and what your thoughts are on that.
So let's finish there because that's the touchscreen I did after the game, and it's the 2-play sequence. So the first one, Celtics down 1, 24 seconds to go, or no, 28, I think it was. They take the ball out of bounds after a timeout. Tatum goes the length of the court, 94 feet. Anunoby picked him up in the backcourt, and then Horford set a great screen at midcourt, got Anunoby out of the picture, and then Tatum had a running start at Mitchell Robinson, who was like 30, 35 feet from the basket, totally flat-footed. Tatum goes right by him and dunks it. Like one of the strangest things you'll ever see in a playoff game or any game. On the line, guy goes 94 feet untouched and dunks the ball. So now Boston's up 1. So here's what was interesting. And I already thought it was interesting because they tried it again, but it got really interesting when I heard Mazzulla's explanation for not calling the timeout. That was one of the first questions he got. Any consideration in not calling that timeout after Brunson's free throws and now you're down 1, 12 seconds to go? And he said, well, yeah, I just thought, it worked so well for us the last time. We're going to do it again and try to get the same action. But they defended it differently, basically is what he said. And so it wasn't there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, what do you think they were going to do? Let Jayson Tatum go 94 feet, dunk the ball again to win the game? Like, yeah, no kidding. So this time, and here's my point with this. Tatum gets the ball. He's coming up the floor. There's nobody in the backcourt this time. And when you finally see the defenders on him, Anunoby, they're all the way back at the 3-point line, and Horford is trying to screen him. And he and Mitchell Robinson, Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson are like sandwiching Horford. They're on either side of the screen. So Tatum at that point has like 2 options. He's going to have to operate in some sort of one-on-one space once he slows down and looks at it, or shoot a pull-up 3 from like 28. He could have taken that if he wanted to because they were all the way back at the 3-point line. Obviously, he wasn't going to do that. So here's my point, Adam. If you're Mazzulla and you say, I didn't take a timeout because I thought, hey, we just had a great action on this coverage. They do it again. We'll get something good. Why wouldn't you? Because he was up by half court. As Tatum was coming across half court, I froze the screen to see 9.6 seconds left in the game. So if you're Mazzulla, everything was predicated on their coverage. It's not the same coverage. It's a lot more crowded. Jayson Tatum and your team have been awful offensively for the last 15 minutes. I'm taking a timeout then. Maybe your idea was okay in the beginning, but I'm looking at it now going, you know what? No, timeout. Now, okay, 9 seconds to go. Get over here. Let me take some stuff off your plate right now mentally because this is going to be on the coaching staff. We're going to draw it up. And if we don't get you a clean look, they're going to be on us. And if we do and you miss it, yeah, you'll probably get criticized. But I can't trust you guys right now. I can't trust you. And guess what? That's exactly how it played out. Yeah. Tatum took the ball to a terrible place. 2 guys defended it, and he gets the ball. Think about this, Adam. How often in NBA games do star players, and this has happened 2 games in a row, not only do they not get a shot off, they don't get the ball on to the next guy cleanly. Yeah. It happened twice, and you just don't see that in NBA games. Like if you have to, you throw up some garbage. You get something up headed toward the basket. They had 2 turnovers without getting a shot off with the game on the line. So that's my question for you. Do you feel what I'm saying? Like if that's your explanation, I'm expecting a certain coverage. Let's do it. It just worked. Oh, wait. That's not the same coverage. Timeout. Yeah. Right at half court. What would you have done that? Or you think Mazzulla had already kind of married to the fact that like, I'm going to let these guys figure it out?
I think what happened on that last play was that Tatum fumbled the ball 2 or 3 times. And not fumbled it like he was about to lose the ball, but he tried to make a move. He actually circles back to this middle of the key, could get to the foul line. And from that spot, you could either, fake go and kind of get to your foul line jumper. Like he was in position to do that, but he couldn't get a clean handle on the ball. And at that point, I think it's hard to get a timeout because you're talking about 4 seconds. You don't really he's still kind of in position to score. And because he didn't have the ball cleanly, he dribbles across the paint into the baseline. And at that point, there was no time. There was nowhere to go. He put himself in a bad spot. So I understand what you're saying. And in hindsight, of course, you call that timeout.
Can I just stop you for a second? You're talking about much later. You're talking about after he got, this switch Robinson's on him, crosses over. You're right. I even froze it last night when I was doing this play because his ball got all the way out, way to his left side because he was losing the ball. But that's 3-4 seconds after what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if you're Mazzulla and it's all right in front of you and you expected a coverage and now it looks completely different. It's totally congested. Jayson Tatum is not feeling it. He hasn't felt it for 2 games. I'm saying call it as he's at half court, coming across with his dribble. Like timeout. This is not going to go well. I guess if you're a coach and you've decided this is where we're going. First of all, I can tell you this right now. Everybody's different. I'm not saying I'm a better coach than Joe Mazzulla. All I'm saying is my belief in everything that's transpired for the last game plus 47 minutes and 48 seconds. Okay. Everything that has transpired is telling me we are in a horrible place offensively and from a rhythm standpoint. And I have a timeout in my pocket. I am taking the timeout after Brunson's free throws to make sure we're organized on where the ball is going to be inbounded, who's going to get it. Can we orchestrate the switch we want? Where's the spacing? I'm doing that because I want to help my team as much as I can. It almost felt like he sort of, just deferred to guys that really hadn't proven it over 2 games that they were in a good place to go make that decision. That's my point. You're talking about later, like, by the time he got down to the foul line, you can't. It's too late. But when he crossed half court, there was over 9 seconds left.
The point I think I completely agree with you is that Jayson Tatum was not feeling it because I think some coaches, we talked about this a couple days ago, some coaches are foul up 3. It's like a principle was what we do. And some coaches are, we're not going to call a timeout unless we absolutely have to. But to your point, there was nothing that happened in the final 5 minutes of that game that made you feel like Boston was going to have an advantage in transition. Just let them play it out, find their own rhythm. Don't let the defense get set or draw anything up. There was nothing Boston had done that made you think they were going to get a good shot off in that moment. So you've won me over to your side. I think you're right that you just read the flow of the game.
I want to address a comment because it's a good point. If he had said this, I would have agreed with the point, which is somewhere in here. It says, I think Mazzulla didn't want them to sub out Brunson, right? Because they could get a better defender on the floor. That makes sense. But guess what? That's not what he said. Yeah. And if he said that, I would have been like, okay, he thought it through. He didn't say that. He said, we just ran an action and we got a great shot out of it. And I thought we could do that again. Yeah. That to me was a little bit strange because there's no way the Knicks would allow that to happen a second time. So he gave the reasoning and it wasn't, I think that's actually a more valid reason. You know what? We want Brunson on the floor because I don't even know who they would go to off the bench, but
the only thing I'll push back there is, and now we could. I want to talk about the Knicks now because I want to give them a lot of love. I'm so impressed with them in this. But
I agree.
Late in this game, they actually just switched Brunson onto Brown and onto the perimeter and didn't even send help. It wasn't a switch and we're going to trap and everybody rotate. They just trusted him to sit down. It wasn't many possessions, but it was the clutch where they just said, you know what, let's see what they do. They hadn't been successful driving, for most of the night. He says, just sit down, guard him, pressure him, see what happens. And he got stops on Brown. And you add that to the heroics he had at the end of the game. And I look at it and I go, yes, you're probably right. They sub Brunson out. They get a defensive lineup in there. But nonetheless, Brunson was obviously a huge part of the spirit of that. And he was a spirit of it on the defensive end too, because he sat down and got stops when he needed to in the fourth.
I'm going to say one last point on this, then we're going to go to the Knicks. The theory in general, let guys go play or call timeout. Here's where I fall on this. Some of it is the feel for the game and how guys are rolling. You got a ball dominant guard or wing on your team that's cooking. That's more likely you're going to do it. But I also feel like you're much more likely to do it after a defensive rebound or a loose ball turnover, because now the Knicks would be going back in transition. There's no telling. You could get a cross match. They're trying to figure it out on the fly. When Brunson gets fouled and he goes to the line, there's all kinds of communication taking place on the part of the Knicks. That whole thing probably took from the time the whistle blew to the end of the second free throw. I bet you in real time, it's pushing 60 seconds. So you've got all kinds of communication getting set up. And your 2 best players especially the guy you end up giving the ball to, struggling mightily.
Yeah.
And so when you add all that up, I'm going, you know what? I'm going to go ahead. This is my responsibility to call this timeout and organize these guys and give them something that makes them feel confident in that huddle as they take the court. I just think it's part of your coaching responsibility. I'm not saying always. Defensive rebound, turnover. Tatum gets the ball and he's got 38 points and he's rolling. Yeah, man, I might be like, go ahead, go solve it. I trust you right now against a, not a set defense out of a timeout. After a free throw with your guy struggling like that, I'm taking the timeout every single time. That's just my opinion.
Well, let's go to the other side now, because I give some credit, and we can circle back to this. Tatum and Brown don't look healthy. They don't look very explosive. They don't look very confident. And I give a lot of credit to Bridges and Anunoby and Josh Hart. But the guy I want to start with is Mitchell Robinson. 22 minutes is a plus 19 in this game, 6 points, 8 rebounds. And he's guarding the perimeter incredibly well. He's obviously guarding the interior, getting second chance opportunities. And he was so impactful in this game that the Celtics, up on their own home court, went to Hackam Mitchell and were willing to go into the bonus with, 4 minutes to go or something like that, 4 minutes to go. They were willing to go into the bonus just by hacking him so that he would have to go to the foul line. I thought Tibbs did a great job of allowing it right until he was like, all right, put us in the bonus. Once you're in the bonus, they pulled him out. But I just thought that was such a crazy concession for a team that, and a player in Jalen Brunson who knows how to get to the line, to say, we'll allow you, you're on the comeback, we'll allow you into the bonus early. Just because we're afraid of the rebounding and the defense, the interior defense.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another reason I hated the strategy, because, okay, you use up all those fouls to take you up to the limit of the bonus. You're still beyond the 2-minute threshold.
Yeah.
There's so much time beyond the 2-minute threshold that now if you took Robinson out of the game right there, put somebody else in, it's much harder to guard Brunson and Towns because they're in the bonus.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah.
So I didn't like the
You're
strategy at all. And as it turns out, it's weird the way that the Knicks were able to navigate around it. He only took one free throw. Now, granted, it might have been the worst free throw attempt I've ever seen. If you remember the one he shot, it came out, it almost looked like he threw a dart. It was like a straight line. It went below the net. It landed by the basket support. But he only took the one. And so, Adam, to your point, he was so impactful and active. They didn't get hurt by this free throw thing at all. He had a very big presence in the game, including one of the reasons Jayson Tatum fumbled with the ball on that last possession is because 3 different times Mitchell Robinson poked at it with that 7'5" reach or whatever he's got. He poked at the ball while staying low. He didn't overextend himself where Tatum could go by him and cross him up. He poked, and Tatum's pulling the ball back. It was almost like he was man, he almost got it poked away from him, even to the point where when he crossed over to go left, Robinson reached one more time and the ball goes way out to Tatum's left-hand side. He even made that play. I think he impacted what ended up happening to Tatum. So his switchability onto those guys was important. His presence overall was a factor, man. And now you see why, they were talking about it all year while he was out. All those games he missed, why they needed him so badly. I like that you brought him up first, because he's not going to have a stat line that's popping out at you, but he had a major impact in the game.
He was huge, absolutely huge. And now you wonder, what can you do? You think about, he is a versatile big. He's more of a rim protector than a perimeter defensive big, but he was so good defensively on the perimeter that it adds to this idea of, okay, you can't just settle for threes. You got to get into the paint. But now he's guarding out on the perimeter and making them look incapable of getting into the mid-range, getting to the rim and finishing. But a lot of that credit goes to OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, who I think are doing an incredible defensive job against a really, really difficult to guard perimeter offense by Boston. And those guys have just come up so tough in the first 2 games here. What do you think of their defense?
Yeah, defense has been great. Now they had the benefit in this one of a team clearly not in a good place mentally after what happened in game 1, and some hesitation there, some tentativeness, some lack of certainty on the part of some of these guys that when you watch the Celtics all season and watch them last year in their championship run, and when they get really humming offensively, they almost look impossible to stop some nights because of, they have a lot of 3-point firepower, but it's when they're playing in out, they're playing fast. So they're getting transition stuff. Tatum and Brown are winning their one-on-ones, occasionally getting to the rim. You're like, man, you can't switch stuff with Porzingis because he posts up. It's like, how do you start this team? So that's not what we were watching last night. So the Knicks had that going for them. And then they have some guys, man, that really dug in. And Bridges' impact, man, and just 2 games in a row, by the way, he had a huge impact offensively. And he did nothing in the game offensively till the fourth quarter. And then he did everything.
Yeah.
And then the play he made at the end of the game, he's sitting there in the corner with Jaylen Brown, and he's looking at all this action at the top of the key, and he's in his stance, and his eyes are right on Tatum, and he's waiting to time up. If he goes too early, Tatum's got an easy kick to Brown. And I don't know if he makes that 3 or not, or whatever he ends up doing with it. But, Bridges isn't going to give that up. So he was kind of like there the whole time. You could tell he's waiting. When's the right time to go? If he goes into a spin, I guarantee you Bridges was coming at him. Turns out he got himself all in a weird spot on the baseline, and Anunoby jumped. He jumped to contest the shot and then caught the ball on the pass. Like, that's how athletic that play was by Mikal Bridges. And so the guy was like, really didn't do much, and then was sensational offensively in the fourth quarter. And then his defense, which got criticized at different times throughout the year as not living up to what they thought it was going to be in New York. Man, I wonder what those people that criticized that would have to say now with how good he's been in this series.
I think athleticism has really stood out in these playoffs so far. The importance of speed and strength, and the teams that have it have, overwhelmed their opponents. That I wouldn't guess Boston is one of the teams that could get overwhelmed like that. It's not like they're horribly unathletic, but I do think that the speed, the strength, the intensity that the Knicks play with, especially in the clutch, stands out here. But of course, we have to get to the hero of the night, which is Jalen Brunson. This guy's unbelievable, man. Because you're right. I didn't think he had a good game at all until all of a sudden he had an awesome game. And you talk about one of the things about the Knicks that I appreciate, their offense isn't that complex. So when you get into the crunch time, it's not like I need all these moving parts to do this or that. You kind of give Brunson space, and he's so slippery, just knows how to find his spots. And the shot he made to the game winner or the go ahead, falling back off of one leg, that is an impossible shot in that moment with that level of exhaustion. And he hit it just with nothing but net. He was unbelievable in the clutch now 2 games in a row. And the stat line's not great, 17.7 assists, 6 of 19. But that doesn't tell the story. He won the game when it mattered.
Yeah, it's funny. So he goes to the line. First he gets the layup to go up 3 when he goes coast to coast and shoots reverse layup. Then the 2 free throws. I was thinking about, honestly, I was thinking this when the whistle blew. He's going to the line and they're zooming in on his face and all that. And I'm going, is this that moment when you're kind of like, gosh, I wish I wasn't named like Mr. Clutch for the year, because now that guy is never expected to miss a free throw that matters.
Yeah. I like that.
Honestly, like this, they come up with this award and you just give a guy extra baggage he's got to carry around. Like, he's already good enough. It's like, now that situation, especially free throws to win a game, like, you better never miss one of those, man, or you're going to take that title back. So I was kind of having a little laugh to myself, like, yeah, man, even added pressure. Now he's got this award and he goes to the line. Of course, he makes them both. And, man, like, other guys have played huge roles in the fourth quarter of these 2 games. Like, I could give you probably, 4 or 5 different shots that were made by other guys that if they don't, they lose.
100%.
So the other guys played huge. Josh Hart was big in this game. Bridges hit a couple big ones. And then Brunson, late. In the other game, it was Anunoby coming through in a big way when they had to have all those points to make up that deficit. So it's other guys. But the reason I think they feel so empowered in the moment is because they do have Brunson on their team. And, like, he's not going to get himself on a court to a spot like Tatum did where you can't get a shot off. Like, for a fact, Jalen Brunson, unless he's flat out blitzed, and I mean, you can aggressively double team a guy hard enough in this league, you force him to give it up. Even then, though, I guarantee he's not turning the ball over. He's going to get it to somebody, and now they got to go make a play. Or more likely, you play straight up coverage against his defender or a switch defender. And it's like everybody on their team knows he's going to get something good. Yeah. He's going to get something good, and it won't look like the end of the game for the Celtics on those 2 possessions. So I think he gives all of those guys confidence, Adam, because they've all played well at different spots, even though they were bad earlier in the night. Didn't matter. When the game's on the line, they feel like they're going to go win the game, and Boston is waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's where we're at as we head to New York.
And it's kind of crazy Boston is here, given that they're the reigning NBA champs. I would understand this if you didn't have a championship. You'd wonder about yourself a little bit, but they just won a championship going 16-3, but they're playing so tight down the stretch. They're making horrible plays, and their guys just don't look confident with the ball in their hand. It's wild. Porzingis has this weird illness going on. He only played 14 minutes. Jaylen Brown looks like half of himself athletically. There's just no burst there. Down 2-0. I mean, if you're the Knicks, you look at this and say, okay, the Cavs are down 2 games. You're up 2-0, and now you have 2 home games. You have to be feeling phenomenal here, but where do you think this series is headed?
Well, so here we go. We changed venues. I already said it could be a psychological benefit to the Celtics right now to get out of town. Okay, to get out of that building. So reaction is going to be different on Saturday. So there's a few things here at play. I personally believe it's going to be a close game. If the Celtics win the game, it's going to be because they had to play well in the fourth quarter. Like, guys are going to have to make shots when it matters. They haven't done it for 2 straight games. To win a close game, that's what has to happen, right? So if they win, it's because that transpired. And if that's the case and they get to 2-1, I think that we're kind of right back where now you wonder if the Knicks can hold on. It's weird to say, but it's going to feel completely different to everyone if the Celtics win that game Saturday, because guess who's going to experience in the next game what Boston just experienced with their home crowd? The Knicks players are going to experience it in game 4, because if you at that point, everybody's going to think we can't lose this game because now we're back to 2-2 and we're not going to win another game in Boston, whatever, right? And it's going to feel like doomsday. Yeah. So if the Knicks give up game 3 or the Celtics just take it, I think Celtics feel a lot differently about themselves, and maybe you see more in game 4, because they might have to win another ugly game in game 3. They might feel so good going into game 4 that now they finally get unleashed, and it looks like the Celtics all year that we watched. So that's how important I think it is for the Knicks to not give one of these back immediately on Saturday. I really think that.
Can they win by just shooting better? Because I know we're talking about taking too many shots here, but they were 5 of 24 on wide open threes. And I know your take on wide open, and not every shot's wide open. A lot of these were wide open, and they went 5 of 24 for the best shooting team in the NBA. So do you think they can just shoot that game 3 could just be they made a bunch of threes?
Well, it's not just that. They have to shoot better, but it's also the two things are tied together with what we criticized them for in game 1. You cannot take that many rushed shots with a big lead. It's stupid. It's just not, it's not game management, man. And I know their theory is, well, no, man, this is what we do. It's how we play. We're not going to change no matter what. Well, that's not really, these wins are precious jewels, right? You got to get 4 of them. So now you've had 2 in your hands. Now the first game, because I think it was self-inflicted entirely, to crack the door open for the Knicks by the way you played offensively. That's not what happened last game. That wasn't self-inflicted. That was like they're feeling something right now that's really just completely shutting down their team. Psychologically, they're in a terrible place, and the Knicks took it again. So they have to shoot better. That goes without saying. But it doesn't mean that they're going to be cool shooting 50 threes. I don't think, because the pressure of the playoffs means you're not going to shoot a great percentage. So I like the inside out they had in the game 2 more. They got into the paint more. They were definitely more determined to do it. They won some of those matchups, a good amount of those matchups. They got good shots in the lane. Mix it in, keep it balanced, and then, obviously, make more threes. They have, Adam, this is a crazy number. 225 points is what they potentially left out there by missing 3-pointers in 2 games. They've missed 75 3-point shots in 2 games.
That's tough.
So they're connected, but I don't think you just, they go look at the film and go, you know what, man, it got in our heads. Screw them. We're going to come back in game 3 and we're going to shoot 73s. Like, I don't think that's what you do. It's somewhere more like what you played in game 2 and just make a few more perimeter shots. And I think they're going to be in good shape.
Well, you said it might be good for them to get out on the road, but I'll tell you what, that atmosphere on Saturday night, the game's Saturday night. On
It's
Saturday
Saturday
night,
afternoon, I think,
or Saturday,
actually. I
Saturday
think it's
afternoon,
3:30 in the afternoon.
Madison Square Garden on a Saturday with their team up 2-0 and a chance to punch a ticket to the Eastern Conference Finals. That game is going to have an atmosphere to it. So it's going to be fun. All right, let's take a break. On the other side, the Thunder didn't just bounce back in game 2 from a brutal loss in game 1. They sent a statement, scoring 149 in a blowout win that started in the first 3 minutes and continued for all 48. We'll get to that on the other side. The NBA playoffs are underway. There's no better time to be in the arena experiencing that playoff intensity in person. If you're trying to catch your team live this postseason, let us tell you about our friends at Vivid Seats. Vivid Seats is the best place to get your tickets for any live event. They have the best selection of games and seats, and every purchase is backed by their 100% buyer guarantee. Plus, Vivid Seats is the only ticket marketplace that rewards you for every purchase. So download the Vivid Seats app and start earning rewards towards free tickets. New Vivid Seats users who use the promo code ALLNBA30 will receive $30 off of their first purchase of $300 or more. Once again, click the link in the description of the show or go to vividseats.com or download the Vivid Seats app and use the promo code ALLNBA30 for $30 off your first purchase of $300 or more. When it comes to playoff basketball, being there is all that matters, so experience it live with Vivid Seats. Also want to tell you guys about Lucy Nicotine. That's 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. It's available in pouches, gum, and our favorite, the Breakers. Breakers are pouches with a capsule of liquid flavor inside that helps saturate the palate. Breakers are available in 4 milligram and 8 milligram, and they come in a bunch of, there's like 14 flavors, mint, berry, citrus, and espresso. Pouches go all the way up to 12 milligrams. And if you're not a pouch guy or gal, you can try the Lucy Gum, which is available in 2 milligram, 4 milligram, and 6 milligram options. You can also set yourself up with a subscription to have it delivered straight to your door. Level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/allnba and use the promo code ALLNBA to get 20% off your first order. Lucy offers free shipping and has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. That's lucy.co and use the code ALLNBA to get 20% off and always free shipping. And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. All right, back here, segment 2 of the All NBA show. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of the content. Mark Campbell, who hosted yesterday, fantastic analyst, one of my favorites. He has a great video coming out either tonight or tomorrow morning on the Oklahoma City Thunder's defense, which he argues is one of the greatest he's ever seen. So you're not going to want to miss that. It's a film study. It's going to be phenomenal. So make sure you're subscribed. All right. So last night, Nuggets get game 1. They're going up against a tough team. Thunder are desperate, but the question was, how do you respond? They're a young team, hadn't faced a lot of adversity this year. You lose game 1 on your own home floor. That's adversity. And they responded with a vengeance. Just came out and overwhelmed Denver from the tip, built up a 24-point lead in the first quarter, and then turned it up, the dial up even more. It was so dominant, Legs, last night, what they did to the poor Denver Nuggets. What stood out to you?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I think Oklahoma City kind of were making that statement, enough's enough for all the home teams. like, like, they basically put all of that angst into their beatdown of the Nuggets. I was disappointed because I was really looking forward to a great game, hopefully, and maybe even breaking it down after. That obviously was pretty much out the window by the end of the first quarter. Kind of crazy to think they scored 87 points and the final score of the Celtics game was 91-90. And they scored 87 points at halftime. So I don't know. I would rather you go first because I don't really know what you're supposed to take from this game other than they asked me, before we did the studio show, they said, what do you think of the game? What your initial thought? I said, this is what Oklahoma City looks like when I saw them at their best this year. They didn't look like that in the first game. I didn't think. Their defense, their speed, you could see like the determination early. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander alluded to it in his postgame. They knew what was at stake. I like the way he put that. We knew what was at stake tonight, and we had to get more physical. They were up 19-8 on the boards in the first quarter after getting dominated in the first game. At halftime, they had 15 fast break points to none for Denver and 15 points off turnovers. That's the team I watched this year. And the efficiency and all of those things, the energy. So it all came together on a night that Denver didn't have it, man, and they did not have anything to withstand that assault that they took early in that game. And Oklahoma City can bury you when that's the case, and they did. So you might not be happy with Denver's response. I'm curious, like after the first quarter, were you disappointed in any way, or were you kind of like, okay, I see how this is going to go?
I think I felt probably like the Nuggets players on the floor felt, which was, okay, down 24. What kind of energy is it going to take to come back against that team on their home court down 24? What kind of energy is that going to take? And is that worth it, knowing that we already have a 1-game lead in the series? And I'm not saying Denver makes this conscious decision, but there is a huge talent and athletic gap in the series. Talent, just because the Thunder can play 10 different guys and they can get similar identity when they play all of those guys. Denver has, I mean, with Michael Porter playing the way he is with one arm, I think Denver has 5 guys they sort of trust. So the energy it needed to match that from Denver is enormous. And then the athleticism, when you talk about, they have athletes all over the court. They are so fast. They cover so much ground and they play at 100% speed. They hit Denver with a haymaker. And to be honest with you, here's my prediction. I don't think this is the last blowout win the Thunder get in the series. I think that when the Thunder win, there's a good chance they're going to win in this fashion because of how hard it is for Denver to stay connected and how little energy they have to be very efficient in their energy. This one got away from them early. And they let go of the rope. I do have some adjustment stuff from you, but just what do you think about that piece of it? About Denver has to put out all effort just to get a win and to stay with them. And I think they saw a 24-point deficit. No chance.
Yeah, I think that's very fair assessment, because what it looked like, and I'm sure this looked even more so to the guys on the court for the Nuggets. It's what I would often reference Oklahoma City when I would see them this year. They turn it into, it looks like a track team.
Yeah.
It looks like a track team. When the ball's on the floor and they pick it up, long rebound, turnover, 50-50 ball, whatever it may be, the way their first 3 or 4 guys up the floor, their first strides, how fast they are over half court and attacking you in that end of the floor. And that's where it looked like to your point, Denver was just so much more unathletic than them. And we know they are. But when the game is played a little bit more physically, when you stay connected early, so the possessions just tend to slow down a little bit in the second half, it's going to favor Denver. When it turns into this, this feeding frenzy for the basketball and then changing ends of the floor like that. Yeah, Denver looked like they were just running uphill compared to those guys. So it was over at the end of the first quarter. I don't know that you can take a ton from it. I would have loved to have seen a closer game so I could have seen what Oklahoma City would do differently with Jokic if it was a close game in the second half. We didn't see that. So, hey, maybe that's something for Adelman that's to his benefit. They didn't have to go to it.
Yeah.
So now we'll see what happens in game 3 and what Denver can do. Obviously, the place will be rocking for them at home. But OK City, they have to feel so good about cleansing themselves of like losing a home game after having that kind of year to start this round. I mean, that's just not something teams that with that many games do, right? But they did, and they cleansed themselves of it. They probably feel very much like, okay, just play our style. We're going to be fine.
Yeah. And that's what Coach Mark D, I guess I always say his name wrong, even though I try, but what he said afterwards was that didn't feel like a bounce back. That felt like us being who we are. And I think that's how you should feel after that one of like, okay, we settled things in. This wasn't anything other than us being who we are. A couple adjustments, though, I do want to talk about. Number one, and this is where I think Denver, kind of knew what was going to happen in this one once it got out of hand. Denver played a lot of zone in this game, and it did not work at all, and they stuck with it. And what Oklahoma City did, and I wonder if that had a little bit to do with conservation of energy, right? Denver, you're down big. We're not going to have our guys running around the court. Let's sit in our zone and see what happens. But what they did is it's kind of a 1-2-2. Jokic's on one of the blocks, and they would overload whatever side Jokic was on. Because what you're saying is either Jokic is going to come out and guard the perimeter, step out on the three-point line, in which case we have a rebounding advantage now, or at least can level the playing field, or Jokic's going to stay tight, which is what he did most of the time, and we're going to get wide open threes. And Denver ran some zone in that first game, just kind of as a curveball. They had some success with it, throwing out off of their rhythm. Oklahoma City was very prepared now for, okay, this is exactly how we're going to do it. And they did it over and over again, and Denver didn't adjust, which again tells me I think Denver wasn't going to give away too many things. Once they got down big, it was like, we're not adjusting to this. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, they got a glimpse of it, and I think it's got to be something that you'll see. I mean, this is going to be a big test for Adelman, who to this point has accorded himself very well, thrown into this circumstance. Not an easy thing at all to do, and now you're playing the team that was the best team in the NBA this season. And they're coming with something different because you had so much success in game one offensively. They didn't really have the ability to stop them. And now this is when, the series, as they move on, coaching's so important because of these types of adjustments. So I am curious to see how prepared Adelman and the Nuggets are for what OKC will throw at Jokic in game 3, assuming it's a close game.
I think the other thing that Oklahoma City did with Jokic in mind was they got the ball to the middle of the floor, namely to Chet Holmgren and to Isaiah Hartenstein, deliberately very early. And I think it did a couple things. One, you're forcing Jokic now to guard. You're making him step up and kind of be the fulcrum defensively. And then two, I think you're hoping that you can make it tough for him so that he gets himself in foul trouble. I think a lot of his fouls were frustration and exhaustion variety. Like he kind of fouled himself out of this game. But that to me is something that we talk about. What are we going to take from this into the next game? I think they are going to try to put pressure on defense at the foul line so that Jokic has to guard Hartenstein, who's been on fire with his little push shot, or just Chet Holmgren, who has a speed advantage around Jokic. And they're going to try to attack him there to say, hey, you have to defend every possession without fouling on ball in the center of the court.
I think it's fair. I think that's probably how I would want to attack him too. And look, they don't have a lot of answers, particularly with their depth. Like Denver is what they are, man. And they've got this great player. If it's close, you've got a tremendous advantage because of the different ways he could beat you in a half-court game if it's close in the fourth quarter. The key, game 3 is going to be stay connected. Let's see what happens, man. OKC's feeling really good about them. So I do have one last question about Jokic, though. Like, as I texted with you guys during the game, what was going on with him last night, though, man, with some of this stuff with he was being overly theatrical with some of the contact he was trying to create. The play where he jumped on Williams' back and then, lands on his back, sitting up and like, hey, palms up. Like, what are you talking about? I mean, there are 32 states in this union. You could go to prison for what he did to him on that play. And he's trying to get a call. And he just looked like he was sort of over the top.
Yeah.
By his standards, and he's a physical guy. He wants to take it to you. It's part of his game, is using his strength and his leverage, right? It's a big part of it. But I just thought he was a little bit out of control with it last night. Did you agree with that?
100%. And I actually saw it in the first round against the Clippers. Yoke's putting a lot. I mean, he can't be off the court, so he's playing about 44 minutes a night, and he's putting a lot into it. And I think the physicality of the playoffs and just how much is required on him is mentally wearing on him. That's not an excuse. That's the challenge, right? When you're a great player, I mean, you see Jalen Brunson, I'm sure he feels very similarly. He gets 3 minutes of rest a game, 44 minutes of rest. There's a lot on your shoulders. And I think that he is in some ways like last night, you saw it get beneath his skin, and he's doing a lot of those extra things. He fouled himself out, being kind of extra aggressive in some of the fouls, like extra demonstrative. But that to me is the challenge with Jokic right now. Is I look at him and I think that he looks, every possession matters for him. Some guys, they get a possession off. I'm going to be in the corner. This one kind of less. Every possession matters, and he has to play 44 minutes. And I just see little frustrations feel big to him. Big frustrations get him to do stuff like he was doing last night.
Yeah, it was distracting to me. I actually said to somebody in the room, I said, he's tonight, not in general, tonight, he's taking on almost like a Luka persona.
Yeah, totally. He was full Luka last night.
Kind of what it reminded me of last night. It was nonstop. I felt like the whole game, which is odd because the game was a 40-point game, like before you knew it. So you think he'd save some of that for a closer game. So I don't know if this is going to be something now going forward. This is what we're going to get out of Jokic every night. But I felt like it was almost like one of the things I loved about him before was like his stoicism through a lot of that stuff. And play, man, just play. And he's so much more overtly demonstrative. Maybe that's why it's just like jumps out at me, because it's like different how he used to be. But I don't know if that's going forward or not. But it really was distracting watching him last night with all
Yeah.
of the theatrics around the contact that he was trying to create and sell and like all this stuff. And we'll see what it looks like in the next game.
I think obviously the physicality is a big deal here, but the last thing I'll say about Denver is because people always ask me, what's the adjustment? What adjustment are they going to make? Denver doesn't have adjustments. They have 5 guys who can play. Those guys are Jokic, Aaron Gordon, who's been very good in this playoffs, Christian Brown, who I think has been very good in this playoffs, although he had 3 points, and they were leaving him wide open, by the way. That was another adjustment they made, was sort of, let's see what happens if we just force the ball into his hands. He went 0 for 3 right out of the gate for Denver, and I think that was part of what started that run. You have Jamal Murray, who has not been great, and you have Russell Westbrook. Right now, Michael Porter Jr. is not giving you anything. I mean, and that's been the case for a while because he's got that hurt shoulder and he's limited anyway. Those are your 5 guys. It's not like Denver can say, okay, we're going to mix up rotations. We're going to try this. They don't have any levers to pull. So, I think for Denver, the margin is just so thin. That's why I say any game Denver wins in the series, I think they're going to win by 5 or fewer points. And the Thunder, I don't think they're done with their blowouts. When they win, there's a good chance they're going to win in blowout fashion, because if they are able to break Denver open like that, there's not a lot Denver can do to slow them down once the doors open.
Stay connected. Don't let them run away from you. You've got it. You got to be within arm's reach. Get them into the fourth quarter in that situation, and you've got the most dominant offensive force on the court, especially when those possessions slow down and they're getting deeper into the clock and the ball's walked up more and all those things that take place in the fourth quarter of playoff games. You've got this incredible weapon, but that's not going to matter if they're running away from you. So the key is don't turn the ball over as much in the first half. That was a big factor. 20 turnovers in the game. It's hard to tell because it got pulled so early what that number would have been, but still it was a factor in the first half. So you've got to prevent them from getting the starting blocks and running on you to that extent early in the game. And I think you'll have a much better indicator, man, by the end of the first quarter. Like, is this going to be a 1-possession game down the road? And if it is, you got to like Denver's chances, particularly at home.
So weird schedule quirk. They play on Friday night and then Sunday afternoon, a 36-hour difference between those 2 games. And I look at that and I go, one of these teams is young and athletic, and one of them is, not old, but not young and not athletic and not deep. And I look at that and I go, Denver, I think game 3 is sort of a must win, because if you're counting on a 36-hour layoff for a team playing 5 guys in the rotation right now, you're probably on, not doing too well. So weird game, must-win game for Denver here as they get back to their home court. All right, lastly, let's just preview real quick. So Steph Curry is out, and you now have Jimmy Butler's Warriors sitting on a 1-0 lead with the second game here in Minnesota. What do you think happens tonight, and what are you watching for?
Yeah, look, for me, it's how do the other role players operate offensively without Curry on the court to create all that attention and distraction and multiple guys shading him and following him to where now guys like Moses Moody and Podziemski and Buddy Hield and these other guys that you're counting on, man, to give us some punch, they rely on that. They rely on the activity of Curry, the attention he gets. Obviously, the offense is going to go through more Jimmy Butler, and he's going to have to be aggressive early. He can't come out, feel his way. Sorry, Curry's not there. You're probably going to need 30 out of Butler, 30, 35, get into the line. If he can do it, it's a great defense with a lot of size at the rim. It's not going to be easy for Jimmy Butler. It's not like he's going to go out there and hit 6, 7 threes if that's he's not that kind of player. Everything's mid-range and in and getting to the line. He'll do his thing. I'm confident he will do his thing. And their defense will keep them in the game. I just don't know what it's going to look like for the guys I just mentioned. And Gary Payton, like all of those guys, they're not getting their own offense. None of them. Moody, a little bit now, and also, I guess, maybe an X factor. What do you think tonight? Do we get 20, 25 minutes out of Kuminga tonight?
Yeah,
he's a guy, if you played him 25 minutes, if he deserves it. Now, if he comes in the game and he has 3 turnovers and misses 2 shots, no, but I'm saying if he comes in and plays okay and he ends up getting 25 because he earned it, he's like maybe the most likely of all the guys I just mentioned to give you 16, 18 points. And you're going to need it. You're not winning this game 75-72. Like, you're going to have to score. That's my biggest question, and that's what I'm going to be watching tonight. Like, how do they operate their offense for those guys? Draymond made 4 threes in the first half the last game. Yeah, that's just such an anomaly. What does he give you tonight offensively? Because it's very likely he gives you a 6, 8-point game. That's very likely for Draymond Green, along with the great defense and the rebounding and the assists. But tonight, They need points. Who is going to give it to them besides Butler? That, to me, is the story of the game.
I want to see what Ant-Man does tonight, because their team needs a leader. They need somebody to step up. Shea was phenomenal last night and getting them going early on and then obviously sustaining it. And there is something too. Everybody's going to play hard. Everybody's locked in, but it's made easier when your leader sets the tone early. And I think that with how poorly they shot the ball last night, I just want to see Ant go out there and be aggressive, trying to settle things. And what kind of leadership he displays.
And to your point, his head coach called him out by name.
Yeah.
It's got to start with Ant. I didn't think he had the right vibe and energy to lead. Everybody's counting on you. Like, he put it right on his lap. Of course, Anthony Edwards, they asked him about it, and he said, I didn't really see it that way. I played great defense. I just couldn't get it going offensively. I would have much rather he said, you know what? Yeah, man, I agree, man. And watch, see how I look in game 3, because you're right. Yeah. I think I let my guys down tonight. That would have been a great answer. He was just like, no, really, no, I didn't see it that way, really. So I don't know, if that affects him. He's ticked off at Finch or whatever. Regardless, he got called out by his head coach. He wasn't as good as he needs to be. Going on the road now. I agree with you, man. I think you're going to see that fire in Ant Edwards' eyes tonight, and it's going to be early. He's going to come out and he's going to be trying to mark that game. And if he does that and he keeps it up, you know what he's capable of. So there's a lot of little subplots going into this one, man. Warriors just trying to hang on till they get Steph back. I think a very likely scenario, based on the timeline we've been given, they might be down 3-2, man, headed back to San Francisco for game 6, and Curry reemerges, wins a game, setting up a game 7 on the road. Because I think he's going to miss 3 or 4 games. Yeah. That's what it looks like they're saying. I mean, so that's a lot for the Warriors to withstand against a good Minnesota team.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some super chats. What do we have? Bannock says, Legs, Knicks have won 2 games due in large part to Boston's offensive woes. What do they need to do to win this series? What player needs to perform? And we spent 40 minutes on this, but
yeah, I mean, well, the bottom line is this, that, you think about it, Brunson he didn't string 2 together. He could be better for sure. Mikal Bridges has been very quiet offensively up until they needed him. So it's like they've gotten it done when they needed to, but it's not like the Knicks have played great and won 2 games. That's what's actually kind of scary for Boston, I think, is that the Knicks haven't played their best. The Knicks are better than Cat was a non-factor in the second half of game 1. He played much better last night. So none of these guys have put together 2 games in a row for the Knicks. They just have a belief that the Celtics will wilt. If we can just get them to a situation where it's tight late, they're going to melt. So for the Knicks, I just think that, man, there's more there on the table for them. They can play better, and they probably will at home. Question is, can Boston? If Boston does, they're going to play much better. And if they play much better, play closer to their best, this series could turn around quickly. But I don't know if they're capable of it right now. They look mentally absolutely shot at the end of that game. And now let's see what a change of venue does for them.
It's ironic. It kind of mirrors Denver last year. Defending champs, second round, dropped the first 2 at home and kind of get bullied like Denver did to Minnesota. And, it was a sign things were about over. Is it the same with Boston? Let's find out. What do we got? Jiawah Huang says, open shot, fate of the universe on the line. The Martians have the death beam pointed at Earth. Would you trust Jayson Tatum with the last shot? You got to love a good hater question here.
Man, that's
where he's trying to lead you here.
That's so true, man. I don't know. Right now, you're asking me at a bad time, man. Like, you got a laser beam. You got a laser beam pointed at the planet. Okay, I'm probably not going to pick Jayson Tatum right now based on the last 2 games. All right, if you ask me mid-season, I might say, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with Tatum saving humanity.
It doesn't look ready. Bad timing here. What else we got? Drew Chung. Here's the thing. Jokic flopped and foul baited in game 1 to get Chet Neihart and foul. Get out of here. No one calls him out on it. Thanks for acknowledging it at Tim and Adam. Here's one thing I'll say. The Thunder are trying to rough him up. And I'll give you the play that I think really points to this. There was the play, I think it's like second quarter. Jay Wilt is in the game, not J-Dub, Jay Will. And he pushes Yoke from the block to the elbow and they call the foul. And after they call the foul, he 2-arm shoves him off. And Russell Westbrook comes from across the court to get in his face. And they teed up Westbrook. And I thought for a second, like, if you think that the game plan is not to get physical with Yoke and try to get under the skin, my point is not about that. My point is Yoke has to be able to handle that. That is pressure they're putting on him deliberately, and he has to be able to keep his cool, and he's not.
Agree.
But
I agree.
don't act like the plan is not to rough him up.
And I will say, to be fair, and give fair and balanced coverage here, I've seen some stuff, and especially out of Hartenstein. The one play last night where he acted like, he got hit with a right hook from Mike Tyson when Jokic was backing him down. And then they should have.
Oh, yeah, there was nothing there.
I didn't even see contact. And he was holding his face, and I thought he was going to come out of like one of those, movie packets, and I get blood in him. And popped it in his nose, like he's, and like he's holding, because I'm like, he's selling the hell out of this. And I thought, man, it looked like he really got him. And then they showed the replay, and even, was it Grant Hill on the call last night? I think it was Grant Hill, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah, Grant Hill was like, I don't really see anything there. Not a lot there. And Hartenstein literally acted like he caught a right hook from Mike Tyson. So it's not just Jokic. It's just last night I felt especially like he got. I texted you, Adam. I said he needs a therapist. He's borderline unhinged right now. Like, what's going on? He
was unhinged yesterday. He was unhinged for sure. And he was unhinged in one of the games in the Clippers series too. That's why I say it's like, to me, it's about how you handle those things. But this idea that like, the Thunder are just standing there and they're not, it's okay. Come on, man. Their game plan with Jokic is we're giving up 100 pounds from both of our centers. We have to get physical with him. That's the game plan. He has to be able to deal with it. But this idea, come on now. Come on. All right, what else we got? Justin Derico. Let's add a rule in the playoffs. The winning team of a series gets to select one player from the team they beat to play with them. 15 mil max contract. All right. I don't know what to say here.
I do real quick before we get off. I saw a rule change, and I always have fun with this. A rule change that, like, tell me what you think about this. How interesting this would be. Instead of overtime, okay, game's tied at the end of regulation. All 5 guys that are on the court shoot one free throw, just like a soccer penalty shootout.
You're a shooter. This is such a shooter's idea.
Yeah, so you know where this comes into play.
My max contract
my basketball camp, we do this, and like if it's because you don't have time to play overtime.
Yeah.
The game ended, so I tell each coach, pick a shooter. They send one guy up. If they both miss, then you got to pick a different shooter, and then you solve it. It's called sudden death. We end it that way. I've always thought about it because, like, think about your strategy defensively in a tie game. If you got Mitchell Robinson on your team and you need him on the court to get the stop, but if you get the stop, he's going to have to shoot one of those 5 free throws. That's fascinating to me. I just wanted to throw it out there.
I like it, man. You and Adam Silver, you guys have ideas, constant ideas, man. We never know what's going to happen. All right, hit that outro music for us, James. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us. We went long today, but we are off for the weekend. Might have an episode with Mark Stein over the weekend, so we'll try to fill you in with something, even if it's a mini pod. But we appreciate you guys hanging out all week. Make sure you're subscribed. We don't know where these series are headed just yet, but by the time we come back Monday, I think we're going to have a real good, strong sense about what's happening. So can't wait for that. Make sure you're back. Have a great weekend, everybody.
We all silly like the mayor.